quadratic equation by extracting the roots. So how are we going to solve quadratic equation by extracting the roots? So we can solve quadratic equation by extracting the roots by following certain steps. So these steps in solving a quadratic equation by extracting the roots, I hide it in a term, or I hide it in an acronym, which is what we call as NEAR. The word NEAR. So the letters NEAR. So the word NEAR, I guess I have that as the steps in solving quadratic equation by extracting the roots. It's because the word NEAR, I guess, is the best word to describe your dreams in the future. That means you are getting nearer to what you want to achieve in life. So that will happen if you are going to continue what you have started. So continue studying, because all the things that you want to be in the future, that will happen if you first finish your studies. So focus first on your studies, on what you are doing right now. Then later on, you'll find out that you are already there on the thing, or on the thing that you want to achieve in life. So there are problems that you will encounter, but those problems are just there to make you strong. So there are no problems that we cannot solve. So all problems can be solved. Yun nga lang, you just have to find the right solution for it. So problems are just there for us, that is for us to make. That's there for us to be strong. So again, near is the best way to describe what you want to achieve. Ano ba yung near na sinasabi natin? First step natin is NE. NE stands for need to write the equation in the form x squared is equal to k. Excuse me. So, if you are going to solve quadratic equation by extracting the roots, the first thing you are going to do is to write the equation in this form. As x squared is equal to k. What have you noticed on the equation? The equation is not the same as the general form of the quadratic equation with linear term and constant term. So in this form of the equation, we only have the quadratic term and the constant term. K there is the constant term. So if you do have the quadratic term and the constant term in a given equation, so you can solve that quadratic equation by using extracting the roots. So we can, I guess that's the best way that we can solve a quadratic equation whose linear term is not present in the equation. So we can solve it by extracting the roots. So that is by rewriting it first in the form x squared is equal to k. Next, A. A stands for, and if k is 0, you can find out right away how many roots a given quadratic equation has. So, if your k is 0, it has 2 real roots. So, right away, if you have written the equation in this form, in x squared is equal to k, and you find out that your k is greater than 0 or a positive number, then the solutions has, the given quadratic equation has 2 real roots. Well, if your k is equal to 0, just like, for example, if x squared is equal to 0, for example, so it has 1 real root. So, why did we say it has 1 real root? So, a quadratic equation has 2 solutions. That how come that we can come up with one real root as a solution? For the reason that its solution are same. So that's why if your k is equal to 0, it has one real root. Then if your k is less than 0, so according to this, it has no real roots. So that's imaginary number. So if your k is less than 0, meaning to say it's negative, it has no real roots. So since we are not yet dealing with imaginary numbers, so if we encounter an equation whose k is less than 0, if we're going to solve it starting the roots. So the answer there is undefined. And the last is R. R stands for, according to this, right away, get the square root of both sides of the equation, find the solutions. So we are just going to find the square root of both sides. So whatever you do on one side, we'll also do that on the other side. So if you find the square root of the left side of the equation, you can also find you are also going to find the square root of the term on the right side of the equation, because we are dealing with equation. So whatever you do on one side, you will also do that on the other side to apply the concept of equality. So in order for us to solve quadratic equation by extracting the roots, all you have to do is to apply our steps, which is what we call as near. Now, let us answer examples of quadratic equation wherein we are going to apply extracting the roots as a method in solving for it. So let's have here number 1. So the given is x squared minus 100 is equal to 0. So look at the given. The given does not have linear term. So it is a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus c is equal to 0. So only the quadratic term and the constant term are present in a given equation. So if the given equation is like that, I guess the easiest way that we can solve given quadratic equation is by using a method which is what we call as solving quadratic equation by extracting the roots. So what's the first thing we're going to do? According to the first step, um, we have to rewrite it, or we have to write the equation in the form x squared is equal to k. So in that case, if since it is written x squared minus 100, the first thing you're going to do is to move negative 100 to the right side of the equation. So if you move negative 100 to the right side of the equation, so since it jumped the equal sign, so the negative 100 will change its sign. So from negative 100, when you move it to the right side of the equation, that will become positive 100. So or 100. So what will happen is that it will become x squared is equal to 100. So that the when you move negative 100 to the right side of the equation, it's the same way that you made use of a certain property, particularly the addition property of equality. So you just added 100 on both sides of the equation. So that on the left side, negative 100 plus 100 will be cancelled out because that will be equal to 0. And 0 plus 100 on the right side will be equal to 100. That's why it will end up to x squared is equal to 100. So in that case, we are already on the right form. So the next thing we are going to do is to get the square root of both sides. That's according to the steps. So we are going to get the square root of both sides of the equation. As I was saying earlier, whatever you do on one side, you will also do that on the other side. So if you get the square root of x squared, you will also get the square root of 100. So in getting the square root of it, the square root of x squared is equal to the square root of x squared is equal to x, because it's just like we cancel out the square root sign, and 2. Then the square root of 100 is 10. We know that the square root of 100 is 10. But the usual that we know, when we get the square root of a certain number, we only, um, lalo na if a given number is a perfect square, so the usual answer na binibigay natin is a positive number. Say, for example, square root of 100, we know that the square root of 100 is 10. But the truth is, square root of a certain number is a two numbers. That number is the positive and the negative of the square root of that number. So, for example, we do have square root of 100. So, the square root of 100 is not just 10. It's positive and negative 10. Bakit positive and negative 10? Diba, when you say square root, that is the number that when you multiply it by itself, the answer is the one inside. The one inside the radical side. So if you multiply a number, the answer should be the one inside the radical side. So if you multiply 10, positive 10 times positive 10, that would be equal to 100. If you multiply negative 10 times negative 10, that's also equal to 100. So that means when you get the square root of 100, it's not only the answer is 10, but also we are going to consider negative 10 as the answer. Because sabi nga natin, quadratic equation has two solutions. So it's not only positive 10, but also negative 10. So that positive 10 is what we call as the principal root. So when we ask to find the square root of a certain number, hindi pa natin alam kung paano solution yung quadratic equation. We are only giving an answer which is what we call as the positive root. If you're asked square root of 100, your answer is 10. Only 10. Because 10 is the principal root. But in quadratic equation, solving quadratic equation, it's not only the positive root is important, but also the negative root. That's why when you answer square root of 10, when you solve quadratic equation by extracting the roots, the answer is positive and negative 10. So the solution to the equation x squared minus 100 is equal to 0 is or are positive 10 and negative